What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Nemo Propaganda here, and today we're going to check out a speaker by Zoo Audio. You guys have been asking me about the DWX ever since it came out. I didn't know them. I didn't know how to get a hold of them or anything like that, and sending an email rarely gets the job done, but I met the guys at Axpona. Super cool team. I told them, hey, small time reviewer over here. Subscribers are asking about the DWX. How do we feel about a review? And they were totally on board. So hats off to them. Good people over there. We got a review sample here. Now we'll do this review the same way we generally do. I'll get those main specs on screen so you guys can check that out. I will tell you about the standout features, what the speaker sounds like, how it compares to other speakers in and around this price point, some amplifier pairings, and then we'll wrap up the video. So first standout features, this speaker is available with a few different configurations. Anytime a speaker is available with performance enhancements, I always opt for the cheapest configuration. I want to know at bottom dollar, how much performance are we getting? So I've got the cheapest configuration here. You've got a ton of wood veneer options, and they all look so good. You've got some awesome colors like this nice like ocean blue, and just check out their website, guys. The color options are awesome. The speakers are made in America, and for the price, that's kind of wild to me. I mean, $1,400 in its cheapest configuration. Hats off to them for making that happen. Now, some other standout features are obviously going to be the size. I would definitely consider this a medium to large bookshelf speaker. You're going to need stands that are just ever so slightly shorter. And fun fact, I asked the guys at Zoo Audio, hey, what if someone's got a taller set of stands they want to use and they want to rotate the speaker so that the tweeter's on the bottom? They emailed me back. They said, that's fine. We designed the speaker to be used in any configuration, whether it be right side up, upside down, or even laying on its side. For whatever reason, it'll sound fantastic. Go ahead and try it out. We encourage our customers to experiment with those things, which I absolutely did. I tried all the different configurations, whether it be sideways, vertical or upside down, and the speaker sounded fantastic every time. So if you've got some unique placement needs and you need to be able to do that, rest assured you absolutely can. Let me see if there's any other standout features I want to mention before we move on to the listening impressions. I will say build quality is impeccable. This wood veneer looks so good. The fit and finish, just the way this aluminum waveguide is flush against the cabinet, as well as the flared port. This looks incredible in person. I think you're getting a lot for your money at $1,400 so far. But none of that really matters if the thing doesn't sound any good. So let me tell you what the darn thing sounds like. From top to bottom, we have a presentation that is mostly going to be neutral. The treble is ever so slightly on the forward side, not to the point it's going to be offensive in any way. Matter of fact, I found that this speaker doesn't care how bad a recording you give it. I was able to play some like old dirty death metal stuff that oftentimes doesn't sound the best on hi-fi speakers. And on the DWX, the stuff sounded fantastic. Think Cruelty and the Beast by Cradle of Filth. That album, it's a great album for my fellow metalheads. You guys know, but the recording is so bad. It's like nails on a chalkboard, and the DWX didn't care. Any recording, excellent recordings, don't get me wrong, excellent recordings sounded even better. They were fantastic, but you do not need to feed this thing good recordings. You can give it crappy recordings, old songs, no problem. I'll go as far as to say, in terms of being flexible with recording quality, this is one of the best speakers I've had in for review. Not picky at all. Let's get back into what it sounds like though. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. So ever so slightly on the forward side of neutral in the treble region. It is open, it is clear, there's good detail there. Massive sound stage, massive. Listen, this speaker is going to stage larger than just about any of the other speakers in and around this price, even costing more. It's going to stage larger than the Bucard S400 Mark II, the CAF R3 Meta, the Dynaudio Evoke 20. Any speaker in and around this price, even add another $1,000 to the price. This is going to stage larger. That big 10-inch driver, it's there for a reason. Zoo knew what they were doing. If you're the type of customer that typically hasn't loved the sense of scale bookshelf speakers bring to the table, you've always felt they sounded a little small, the DWX is probably for you because it sounds large, guys, real large. The imaging was also very good. I had no complaints there. In fact, I'll go as far as to say in the mid-range, Matter of fact, let's move down to the mid-range so I could talk about that. I've told you everything I wanted to tell you about the treble. Treble's great, no complaints. Good, clean, and clear, ever so slightly forward. Mid-range is where this speaker was really punching above its weight. The mid-range of the DWX, again, it's easily on par, if not in some ways beating speakers that cost more, even $1,000 more. Again, Bucard S400 Mark II, Cap R3 Meta, Dynaudio Evoke 20. The mid-range of the DWX is at least on par with those, if not better in many ways. And what I mean by that is this. The sense of scale and separation, it was better than all three of those speakers. That really blew me away. And I think part of that comes down to the size. It's also engineered well also. You can't just grab a big speaker and expect it to sound better than something like a CAF R3 Meta in the mid-range, but the DWX gets it done. And what I think's going on here is Zoo Audio's given the speaker a large driver, fairly large for a bookshelf speaker, but they haven't made it do a lot of work. The driver is not doing too much in terms of bass. We got linear bass response, so it's not a bass boosted speaker. It gets low, don't get me wrong, it gets very low, but as far as bass quantity, it's not bass boosted, it's very linear. So because they made that choice to not make it bass boosted, the driver is able to just be so effortless in that mid-range region. Now, what that does mean is a subwoofer is going to be optional for some people and it's going to be mandatory for others. Despite being a fairly large speaker, I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter how big a speaker is. If the bass is linear, some of us psychopaths are going to want a subwoofer. Think something like a R3 Meta is actually going to have more bass fullness. The S400 Mark II, even the Evoke 20, they're going to have more bass fullness. All three of those speakers are bass boosted in one way or another. None of them are going to get down as low as the DWX, however. The DWX, its bass is going to be a little quicker, a little bit lighter on its feet, a little bit more resolute, a little bit more effortless, and dig down quite a bit lower in terms of extension. So that's what the speaker sounds like. Pretty darn excellent overall. And I'm happy that's the case because you guys know for a long time, my top pick, under $1,500 was the Hecko Salon Revolution 3, but it seems that speaker's been discontinued. I've been on the hunt for a replacement recommendation. What can I tell people is a great option, just under $1,500, and the DWX easily fits the bill. So I've told you what it sounds like, mostly a neutral affair, ever so slightly forward in the mid-range. In the treble. Bass, very linear. It's not boosted in anywhere in its frequency response, but it does get down very deep and very low. And the mid-range is massive, very expansive. Depth, height, width. The soundstage absolutely went beyond the speakers left and right and vertically. This was the largest soundstage I've had in this room. I really want to make that clear. What the DWX does in the mid-range, as far as scale, really good. Spaciousness, really good. And separation, really, really good. Let's go on to some comparisons now so I could help give some context to everything I just told you. Let's compare this to Thomas & Stereo's speaker, the transmission line Voyager. That's $1,200. This is about $1,400. They're fairly close in price. The two speakers couldn't be more different in terms of sound, guys. Starting with the treble region, the TS Voyager is very laid back and rolled off. It's absolutely on the dark side of neutral, where the Zoo DWX is going to be ever so slightly on the forward side of neutral. Meaning the DWX is going to offer up a lot more clarity, a lot more air, and a lot more separation, just a whole lot more resolution compared to the TS Voyager. Moving down in the mid-range, both speakers have excellent mid-range. I'd go as far as to say the mid-range is the star of the show on both speakers, but for totally different reasons. Guys, again, these two speakers could not be more different. The TS Voyager is going to be really, really warm, tonally rich, colored. It is not neutral by any means. It is all about a colorful presentation. Whereas the DWX is going to aim for neutrality and expansiveness, depth, massive soundstage. Moving down to the bass, Again, the speakers could not be more different. With the TS Voyager being a transmission line speaker, it is absolutely bass boosted. It's going to have a tremendous amount of bass quantity. The bass quality on the DWX is going to be superior. However, that larger driver is doing less work on the DWX. It's going to be quicker on its feet, better transients, and all of those things. All in, we can say this. The Galleon TS Voyager speaker is not about accuracy or neutrality at all. It's all about being colorful. And if you like the sound and the color it brings to the table, it's a good speaker. The DWX is not about being a colorful presentation. It's about being mostly neutral, mostly accurate, massive soundstage, huge mid-range, super open, super effortless. Doesn't care what recording you give it. Very, not very resolute on the top end, but compared to the TS Voyager, very resolute. And it has a good amount of resolution as well. Sometimes when I say stuff, you guys get the wrong idea. If I say very resolute, I'm going to have someone in the comments saying, you said it was very resolute. Was that code for you saying it was bright? Guys, just a heads up, I don't use code words. Please take what I say at face value. I promise you. There's never anything behind what I'm saying. I speak candidly. I put a lot of effort into what I'm saying. Take my words at face value, please. That's that comparison, guys. The two speakers, wildly different. Moving down to, let's talk about another, actually, one thing I did leave out. Absolute low volume champion over here, this DWX. 95 dB sensitive, just a few watts, low volume. It's going to sound great. All of its goodness is available at extremely loud volumes, medium volumes, and very low volumes. The speaker sounds fantastic, kind of no matter where you have that volume knob, which is fantastic. It means it has a very wide sweet spot. I like that. Let's do another comparison. What's another speaker in and around this price? Let's see here. So the Galleon was $1,200. The Heko Salon Revolution 3, while it's discontinued, that was my go-to recommendation for so long. I think some of you guys are going to want to know the difference. Starting with the treble, both speakers have a good amount of sparkle, air, and crispness to the treble. Both are ever so slightly on the forward side of neutral. The Heko Salon Revolution 3 was more on the forward side of neutral than the DWX. Moving down to the mid-range, the speakers are a little bit different here too. The Heko Salon Revolution 3 is going to be ever so slightly warmer, tonally richer. The Zoo DWX, however, is going to be much more neutral, much more expansive, large sounding, stage bigger, vertically, depth, width, doesn't matter, you name it. The mid-range is just tremendously larger and more neutral. Moving down to the bass, the Heko Salon Revolution 3 is ever so slightly bass boosted, so it sounds a little thicker and fuller. The larger DWX is going to extend much lower and sound a lot fuller in those lower frequencies and be much quicker on its feet. So those two speakers have some things in common, just a little bit. They're a little closer than, say, the TS Voyager and the DWX, but the DWX is still very different than the Heko Salon Revolution 3. I'd say the thing there that's most similar about them is both speakers have really, really beautiful cabinets, really nice just QC work, and that sparkle in the treble, they both do really, really well. Let's do one more review and then we will wrap it up. Let's talk about the Bucart P300. That's $1,400, I believe, maybe $1,450, I think. The DWX is $1,400, so they're about the same price. The Bucart P300 is a lot smaller than the DWX, so are the other two speakers I compared it to. Let's do the comparison. Starting with the treble region, the Bucart P300 treble is, I would say dead. If it's dead neutral, the DWX is ever so slightly forward. But despite the treble quantity being very similar with both speakers, the DWX gives you a lot more air, a lot more separation, and a lot more effortlessness with its treble presentation. So easy win is going to go to the DWX in terms of treble. The Bucart P300 may sound ever so slightly closed off by direct comparison, even though the treble quantity is very similar. Moving down in the mid-range, the two speakers are fairly different. With the P300, it's going to be on the warmer side of neutral and very thick and full sounding in the mid-range. It is a bass boosted speaker, and some of that bass goes up into the mid-range. It gives you a fuller sound overall. I've already told you what the DWX mid-range does, guys. It's open, it's expansive, it's all about neutrality and a huge, massive soundstage with great imaging. It's not colored in any way, mostly a neutral affair. Moving down to the bass, the P300 being bass boosted, like the other comparisons. It's going to have more bass quantity at a given volume, but the DWX is going to be quicker on its feet, better transients, better fidelity, sound more effortless, and extend substantially lower. So those are the three comparisons. I don't think we really need any more. If there's more comparisons you want to know about, you can ask in the comments section below. But if you noticed, none of the speakers could do in the mid-range what the DWX could do. And that's going to come down to its size. None of those speakers could stage as large. They couldn't sound as effortless. They didn't have the separation that the DWX had at all. None of them have the bass extension of the DWX either. So I'd say the Zoo DWX is a special speaker in a lot of ways. If you have the opportunity to hear this speaker, or if you've been on the fence, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think this is a speaker most people would like. Let me tell you about amplifier pairing real quick. The speaker's not very picky with amplifiers. You could use something like an Emotiva TA1, TA2. It's going to sound great. If you want a little bit more refinement in the treble region, however, anything by Hagel, something like an H190, is going to smoothen up that treble just a little bit. The best combination was, no surprise, it was a pretty expensive amp. I have the Pathos In-Pole Remix in for review. And that's a Class A amp that dishes out something like 38 watts a channel. And that was just a crazy good combination. But I didn't find any bad combinations. I even tried the $110 or $120 amp made by RSL, the IA255.1. Fantastic combination. So if you don't have a lot of money, but you want a pair of DWXs and you need an amp too, don't sleep on that little RSL amp. These speakers are easy to drive as long as the quality of the amplifier is decent, and the RSLs, I'd rate it above decent by quite a bit. You're going to get great sound. You don't need to worry about recordings. This is just a good speaker. And special note to my friends that live in apartments. I think a lot of the times you guys have a lot of, kind of unique struggles. You're worried about the neighbors and this and that. Don't shy away from the Zoo DWX because you live in an apartment. It might actually be better to get a larger speaker. Hear me out. If you go for something smaller, figure something like a Dynaudio EMIT 10, right? That's a good speaker. It'll look nice in a small room for sure. But you're going to play it louder to get that same sense, to get that big sense of scale that you want, to get that, good imaging and separation and such, right? Most speakers have a sweet spot, and it tends to be, a little bit more volume, and speakers generally sound better. The DWX being bigger means and so sensitive, they're going to play really nice at low volumes. So whether you're a late night listener or don't want to disturb your neighbors, this will do low volume really well. And if you move or you want to throw a party, you can crank these bad boys up really loud also, and you don't even need that much power to get really loud, guys. So I think that's about everything I wanted to tell you about the Zoo DWX. This bad boy gets 2 thumbs up from me. I couldn't find a single thing to complain about. There's no cons here. There's no negatives. I mean, I guess I could say maybe the size for some people might be a con, but there's nothing negative here. I got only good things to say. If you got any questions or there's anything I didn't cover, feel free to ask in the comments section below. If your question's a little bit more complicated, there's a link to my free Discord in the description box. It's usually a lot easier to answer questions in there, especially if your question's more complicated. Maybe I need to see your room and things like that. If you're really curious about how this speaker compares to some of the other offerings by Zoo, I would recommend Ask Zoo Audio. They're going to be more familiar with their product catalog than I am. And with that said, guys, thank you for tuning in. Later.